All right. Hello, hello. Just waiting for some people to get in the room, and we'll get started in a few minutes. Just wait a few minutes, we'll get in the room, and then we will get started shortly. As you're tuning in with us, just let us know where you're tuning in from. Hey, Andre, checking in from ACL. Okay, nice. Looking forward to the discussion. Awesome. All right, in a few more seconds, we'll start. Hey, Kristen, thank you for tuning in with us. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to the Universal Tech Movement's online series called Day in the Life. And today we are featuring Raquel Breternitz, our she's a senior designer at Iterable. Before we get started with her, a little bit about us. We are a nonprofit organization that bridges the gap between a variety of communities and the tech industry through job placement, career development, and networking opportunities. To date, 241 certificates have been awarded, 127 jobs have been secured, and our clients' wages have increased by $40,000 on average. Nice. The services we offer are foundational computer skills via digital equity, so laptops, internet access, and digital literacy training. We also have training cohorts with more than 25 career pathways for entry, mid, and senior level roles across the industry. And we do job placement. We have a job board, employer partners, and a tech ecosystem that we like to plug people into to help you get a job in tech. All right, so getting right into it, let's meet Raquel so she can share with us who she is, her current role, and her background in tech. Hello, Raquel.
Hello, Renata. So nice and happy to be here.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. Tell our audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name's Raquel. I'm a designer. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm currently working as a senior designer at a startup called Iterable. We are a Series E startup working on marketing automation platform. So basically, all of those great emails that you get when you sign up to buy something, or if you sign up for a newsletter for one of your favorite brands, there's marketers that put together a lot of moments-based marketing, and we help enable them to do those things.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm sure I've gotten some of those emails.
Everybody has, yeah. We hope to help marketers make those emails more personalized and more interesting and more relevant, rather than, just those blast emails that everyone gets as well. So
Yes. Well,
hopefully
I
to make it useful.
exactly. I'll personally probably be talking to you more after this because I need that. All right, let's see. So let's get on to the next slide. So, what does your day normally look like? A typical day, mornings, meetings, daily tasks, everything.
Yeah, so I like to keep a good balance between meetings and like deep work time. And so I often have a series of meetings in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so I can't sit down and do deep work in the mornings. So I like to schedule my meetings in the mornings so I can get caught up to the day. I can get a sense of what I need to do. Often that's a looks like a series of one-on-ones with my manager, one-on-ones with any collaborators that I have. I have one-on-one with the senior developer that I work with really closely. Um, and then any kind of team meetings as well. We tend to have a weekly critique,
Mhm.
where all the designers come together, share the work that they've been working on, and kind of help each other figure out any problems or any issues. Another meeting is you just have kind of the UX team meeting where we share kind of overall initiatives that we're all working on and some, nice personality, what are we doing, kind of friendship level work as well. And so that's a lot of my mornings, depending on the weekday. I've got kind of different meetings going on, and then the afternoons I like to save for focus time. And so I'll block that off on my calendar. It doesn't always work, but I'll try to block it off on my calendar and have deep work time where I can like really spend my time thinking about my projects, working on the projects, and seeing how far I can get day after day.
That makes sense. So, do you have like a favorite part of the day? And do you also have a part of the day that's like, I tend to push this back as much as I can because I don't really want to.
Yeah, it totally depends. Sometimes there's some projects that are fighting me, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so blocked on this. I don't want to work on it. But that's why it's important to have that set aside focus time to really think through something. Um, I really love, honestly, our critique meetings. I think they're really energizing, and it's really cool to see what everybody's working on and hear everybody's intelligent thoughts on how we can make things better. Learning a lot through that.
Mhm.
I'm still pretty new in the role that I'm currently in. I've just hit my 90-day mark, and so
Mhm.
um, that's really helpful for me too, just to see what everybody's working on and like get to learn more about the product.
See, and I wouldn't have thought of a meeting being like one of the more enjoyable parts because I'm just like, are people's feelings getting hurt? Like, what's happening? But it makes sense to have space to just like come together and be like, how's everyone doing? Where are we at? Like, is this working well? What do you need help with? I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I very much believe in the growth mindset where,
Mhm.
any critique is so that we can all make things better for our users and not a, direct hit on you. And that took me a while to learn that. I did go to art school, so I had to learn that the hard way through very harsh critiques.
Mhm.
And when it's your art, it's a little bit more personal than when it's design that you're doing on behalf of somebody else. But I definitely learned to develop a little bit of a thick skin there. And now
Mhm.
I really appreciate constructive feedback or anything like that because it just helps me make things better.
Okay. So did you start off as an artist and then you like found your way into tech?
Yeah, I started off mostly as a graphic designer.
Mm,
I went to art school, but then I kind of moved into graphic design. Started off doing graphic design and advertising. And I liked it a lot, but there was a point where it wasn't very expressive. And I was just sitting there like resizing ads for the Blue Man Group and kind of feeling like I was missing something. And so I, you know, got the opportunity to kind of switch over to working for IBM.
mhm,
Um, they do a really awesome program where they hire early career professionals and they put them through a boot camp and teach them a lot of UX fundamentals. And I was able to join as a visual designer and learned a ton about UX. And kind of over the course of my time at IBM, I was able to kind of learn to be more of a UXer, and I found it a lot more rewarding because I really liked being close to users, being close to problems, and being able to solve them.
mhm. That that sounds like a very interesting path to take, and I always love when I hear people's stories that it's like, I just wasn't, you know, by the time I graduated high school or in middle school, I was just like, "Yep, tech is for me." Like, I love that you
Mhm.
were like, "I love art and I love design," and it just happened to evolve, so that's cool.
Yeah, hilariously, when I was in college, I had some like peers that were really into tech and really into making websites and making apps, and I was always like, I hate that. I will never do that. I want to make cool posters for music bands. And but I didn't realize that there's a lot more to making apps and making websites than met the eye when I was in college. So I'm glad I changed my mind on that.
Exactly. Okay, and then so this role you're in now just was like a natural part of that evolution.
Yeah, yeah. What is really cool about the role I'm in right now is I'm actually working on the design system and on what we call craft and polish. And what that means is I'm kind of responsible for making sure that the app looks and feels as good as possible and that everything looks and feels consistent. It can be really hard sometimes to have the same thing act the same way on all different pages. And that's a fundamental kind of aspect of UX for people. They want to make sure they know what they're doing. And then the craft and the polish aspect is like, I want people to feel good in our app. I want it to feel like someone thought about the composition, someone thought about the colors. And so there's a little bit of a marriage of kind of that early graphic design, visual art side with more of the UX, like how does this work kind of side of things in the work that I'm doing these days.
Yes, and for people that aren't familiar with UX or user experience, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so user experience is largely kind of the architecture of how an app or a website works. And so there's somebody kind of sitting there and thinking about like when you press this button, what happens? When you go to this section of the page, what happens? And why? And we really care about making sure that these things are really intuitive so that when you go on, Gmail, it's just as easy as when you go on Facebook, it's just as easy as when you go on your bank. And
Mhm,
that's not necessarily always true, depending on how good those different places are at UX. But that's the goal: is that experience, that user experience, is as good as possible and matches your expectations of what you can do when you log on.
mhm, and that to hear that, it makes sense to me because I know there are a lot of people that are creating their own websites or their own apps. And sometimes people are just like, look, as long as you see the button to buy something, like, I'm good. But sometimes it's like even the experience to get to that button, or even the experience once you click that button, is like so important and can affect your sales just as much as, if people can even tell what your product is. So some people are like, as long as you know that I'm selling lollipops, like we're good to go. And it's like, okay. But then once I know you're selling this thing, like, how can I buy it from you? Is this going to be a good time, or am I going to be frustrated and then I'm just going to be like, never mind, I'm just going to go to the store and get blow pops, like who cares? So
Yeah, that's exactly
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay. So everyone, UX is also experience is like also important. Like user experience is important. How your people are experiencing you and your product is so important. And I guess I do want to mention this too, because with UX, it's not just the online experience, right?
It's not. Yeah. There's also kind of, I think, a concept called service design, which is really interesting because service design thinks about um, every aspect of an experience outside and inside of a website. And so let's your example of buying a lollipop, there is a experience that you have not only going onto a lollipop website to buy something, but also the experience that you have going into the lollipop store. And maybe there's a lot of situations where people aren't just staying in your app. They're going outside of it. They're going and doing other things. And if you consider their experiences while they're doing that as well, it makes it a lot more seamless and makes the journey make a lot more sense when they come back to your app. So that's really cool that you mentioned that because I think that's a aspect of user experience that people forget.
Mhm.
But we're human beings. We're out in the world. We're not just on our phones at all moments of every time. At least hopefully we're not.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So throughout your job, like, do you have any favorite tools or platforms that you and your team use the most?
Yeah, I think right now, like the winner in the kind of design world is Figma. Figma is the tool that UX designers use to build our designs. I used to be Sketch, and then previous to that was Adobe. But now, like Figma is the winner. Use Figma a lot. Pretty much, I would say 90% of what I
Wow.
do is in Figma. But I also, I have been expanding to using Framer, which is more of a prototyping website. It works a lot like Canva, but it's a little bit more robust and helps you make websites. Um,
But they're
and
not
also,
but they're not live
sorry,
websites? It's just like the look of it?
you can make them live. Yeah, you can make them live. You can make them. You have to pay, I think, to attach them to a real URL, but you can make real websites that go on the internet and everybody can access with Framer, which is really cool. Whereas Figma, they've recently launched something where you can do that, but it's still early days and it's not quite there yet. Figma is more like a classic prototype where it looks and feels like a website, but it doesn't have the back end and it doesn't connect to the internet in the same way.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay.
I also really like to use Procreate on the iPad when I'm doing illustration work. Um, it's rare these days that I get to do illustration work, but there's still some opportunities. When you go on a website and you get to a page where there's no search results or where something is empty and you haven't filled it out yet, that's always a good opportunity for some product illustration and a little bit more moments of something nice, something for your brand instead of just a blank page. And so I use Procreate on the iPad for drawing those types of illustrations.
Okay, nice. So you actually don't use as many tools as someone would probably think?
No, I
Okay.
use largely Figma. It's a very robust tool. It's the Adobe for UX, and so um, and I sometimes code, and so I will use Cursor and VS Code for those things, but I don't code as often as I would like to, and I'm much more often in the design side of the things.
Okay. Okay. We have a question from Andre that says, are you seeing more of a trend of SaaS products already having all the apps needed to do your job versus building out those internal apps?
That's an interesting thought. I think yes. It depends on the SaaS, obviously, and SaaS, for those who don't know, is software as a service, software as a service products. A lot of them are trying to do that thing that I talked about, which is keep your users in your app as long as possible without having to kind of jump out and go do something else and jump back in. But it's always kind of a strategic question for any company if they want to build internally, if they want to partner with somebody else, or if they want to buy. And
Mhm.
sometimes companies will just straight up buy another company to do a thing that they need to do. So it really depends, but I do think like for user experience, uh, a lot of it is meant to, even if you're partnering or you're buying, it's meant to feel like one thing and you're doing everything you need to do in one place because you don't want your users to feel like you're jumping out and going to a million different pages just to get their job done.
Yes. And what is an example of a software as a service product?
So Iterable is software as a service. It's basically a, we're selling software that helps you make marketing automation things to marketers.
Mhm.
I think something that people would be more familiar with is, say, Gmail. Gmail is an email service. It's a software as a service. There's a ton, and a lot of tech uses software as a service as a kind of product strategy.
Mhm. And in hearing that, it makes me think of going back to what you mentioned with user experience of, trying to keep people in that one space, for in your app or your website as long as you can, and I'm sure that is a big part of user experience. It's just like, not only do we want you to have a good experience, we know that if you have a good experience, you're not gonna leave immediately.
Yeah,
And you'll stay a little bit longer and you'll do a little bit more. Is that accurate?
that's exactly accurate. Yeah.
So another question, he said, you mentioned you're doing less coding. Which code framework do you like the most?
I that's typical. I um don't code backend very much, and so I largely am doing HTML and CSS, so I'm not working in frameworks very often, but I think um most of the companies that I've worked for have been working with React of some kind, React or TypeScript. And so that's what I'm kind of most familiar with, but I'm also more often sticking to the front end than the back end as a designer.
Got it. Okay, so when it comes to leading and collaborating, what does collaboration look like on your team, and how do you lead and support your designers or your
Yeah,
teammates?
we yeah, we do a lot of collaboration and pairing, which is basically just both of us jump into a Figma file. One of the cool things that Figma does is it's very highly collaborative, and so you can both be in the same file together. And we should kind of both jump into a Figma file together and start exploring ideas. A lot of times someone will come with a problem like, hey, I'm really struggling figuring out this kind of user sign up flow. Let's, for example, um, can you help me get fresh eyes? And so people will hop in together and kind of talk through like what's working, what's not working, and then we'll just start doodling, start exploring alternative ideas. And I think that's uh, a really nice form of collaboration because it's very exploratory and very fun. Another thing that we do is, like I mentioned, the critiques. We'll kind of share a user flow that we've been working on, and then people will drop in comments across the board. And there's constructive comments, there's questions, there's you know compliments and things that are working. So it's not all negative in a critique. um, and so we'll do that together too. I'll also collaborate with researchers, and so the researchers will do some really in-depth kind of surveys and questions, and they'll go and have conversations with our users, and they'll bring it back to us and say, "Hey, people are really confused about X thing, or this, this area of the app isn't quite working the way you expected it to. And that's super helpful for us because then we can get an understanding of how users are experiencing our app and
Mhm.
rethink how those things work. So I really appreciate that. And I'll also collaborate with engineering. And so I'll kind of walk through like, hey, here's the experience that I'm looking for. Here's the why behind it. And here are the things that are changing, the things that need to be built. And engineering will be able to come back to me and say, this is super easy to build and we can do it. Or like, this is actually super difficult. This is not feasible. What if we did it this other way? And the really nice thing about collaborating with engineering is that they have a really good tactical point of view of like, can something get built? And so if you share your why, if you share like, here's what the user problem is, here's what I'm trying to solve for, they can help work with you together if like the solution that you came up with is way too complicated technically. They
Mhm.
might be like, oh, actually, if the user's just trying to, click this button, we can do it this other way. And that's also really, really helpful because I want to make sure I'm building things that are really feasible for us to be able to create and put out into the world for people.
Yes, that makes sense. That even on the back end, the team is like, how can we make this as easy as possible, even for ourselves, so we can make this as
Yeah,
simple as possible for the people that will come after this, that will use our product. So, and I like too that you are working with engineers and other folks, and it's not just like you and your own like design bubble, and because I'm sure that helps like with your brain and just like tackling different things. So that's cool.
absolutely. Yeah, and I can design things all day long, but unless I'm building them myself or working with engineering, they don't become real. And that's really what matters is for them to go out in the world and help people.
Yes. Yes. So, what's some challenges you faced as a leader and accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Yeah, so I'm not in a leadership role currently, but I have been in the past. And I think some of the biggest challenges is balancing the needs of the business with the needs of the users, and also kind of being able to work through kind of what is the most strategic thing I can do at this kind of scenario. Like it can be very easy to get lost in a million things you have to get done, and a million fires you have to put out, and a million people that you need to talk to, and kind of lose that like big picture of what are we actually trying to do here and what are we trying to accomplish and why. And so that's something that I try to remember even now of like what is the overall goal? What am I building this for? What am I working for? And working towards that and making sure that I can kind of push other things out of the way. One of the accomplishments that I'm most proud of is I didn't should have mentioned this earlier, but I worked for Senator Elizabeth Warren when she was running for president in 2018. I ran her design team, which was a really amazing experience. I didn't sleep for 6 months. And some of the challenges that we experienced on that campaign is that the a lot of politics in general still treats design from like an agency model, which means they kind of throw things over the wall, say put the brand on it, and then get it thrown back over the wall. And
Mhm.
there's no collaboration, and there's very little understanding of design as like a force multiplier for your strategy. And so when I joined the campaign, we had a lot of really sad designers that were very siloed. There was one designer that was just doing emails, one designer that was just doing social media, one
Mhm.
designer that was just doing things for the States. And they were really just being kind of given completed objects and told to put the brand on it. And I
Wow.
really felt that there's a lot more value that design can bring. So I kind of broke all that up. I said every designer does everything.
Mm.
Um, whether it's an email, whether it's a poster, whether it's whatever, it's the same brand. And so we're all working together to define that brand. And I'm also getting designers in the door earlier. And so I had designers join in the policy meetings. I had designers join in the strategy meetings, and they were able to really help uh, improve how we were doing things. One example is early on the campaign, I was handed a full paragraph to be put on Twitter, and I was like, I'm sorry, that's just not how Twitter works. I know that we're very thoughtful about this. We have a lot to say, but we need a one sentence through line. We need, like, what's the punch, right? What's the main thing that we're telling people? And we can build a brand around that, and we can build the rest of our assets around that, and do a lot better at communicating in general. And so I was really proud of kind of being able to bring the design team in earlier and getting them to really collaborate with other teams on the campaign. And I think it brought a lot of value to what we were doing.
That sounds amazing. Like, I love how you just almost busted in the door and was just like, okay, let's just stop. Okay, let's just stop and restart. It's okay. I'm like, it's okay to have vision and re-envision things and breathe new life into design work and campaigning. And um I to me it's really cool to see too how you made your own team, like to see these people all separated and you were like, everyone come together, like gather around.
Yeah,
Let's talk. It's okay.
that's the
So
value of having an in-house team. I mean, if we weren't going to hire a design team to be on the campaign in-house, like, we should have just gone with an agency, right? And so let's use that value. We're right there. We're in that warehouse with everybody else. We can walk in and we can help kind of define strategy. We can help define how we're visually communicating things. And that was really exciting.
yes, and I appreciate that because I do think that sometimes for people that are trying to step into leadership roles, they never think, or not never, but sometimes they don't think that it can be as simple as bringing people together. Um,
Very much
that,
so.
that makes you a leader. They're just like, okay, well, I'm here, because you could have easily said, okay, I'm in charge and I'm just gonna do whatever I want and tell them to change their work to match my work. And like, there's still no communication, there's still no collaboration. Like, you could have done that too. So I do appreciate your leadership style as well, because I'm sure that helped lift the spirits of everyone, which thus also lifted the spirit of the campaign as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of a very important aspect of leadership to me is breaking down silos. And, you know, ultimately, an organization is just a bunch of people. It's just
Mhm.
a bunch of people, and people got to work together. And when you help people work together, things go a lot better.
Bravo. Okay, so what's some advice that you would give to someone who wants to move into a leadership role in tech or just move into tech, period?
Yeah, I think it can be really tough. And I don't get discouraged. And also don't look for the exact perfect thing. I think when I was early on in my career, I was like, I need to do exactly this thing in exactly this way in exactly this place. And when I wasn't getting those jobs, I was really despairing and I was having a really hard time. And I just, took whatever job came to me. But what ended up being was that was so much more useful to me. I learned so much more because I wasn't focusing on, like, just the one thing that I thought I had to do. I was learning a bunch of different things. I think the other thing that's really helpful is to sit down and think about what transferable skills do you have. Like, I've moved a few times in my career from graphic design to UX and back, and people think that's weird, but honestly, there are some super transferable skills in those things, not just visually, like being able to make things look good and feel good and composition, but also thinking about audience, thinking about your users, doing, research and thinking about, like, what am I visually communicating? All of these things apply on both UX and visual design. And so there's a lot of ways that you can think about, like, oh, what am I doing now? or even if you're not like in a related field, like if you're doing customer service, that is huge. That's so similar to research. You understanding what people's problems are and you're helping to solve them. And so I think being able to tell that story can help a lot with connecting the dots between what you're doing now and what you want to be doing.
Mm. I'm transferable skills, like, I'm so glad you brought that up. I feel like I can't emphasize that enough because there's so many people, like, whether you're a teacher or a hairstylist or, like you said, customer service, like, whatever it is that you're doing, or you run your own business, or, you're a stay-at-home mom, like, whatever it is, there's so many skills that you don't even realize you're exercising. Like, even the stay-at-home mom, like, that's project management, that's that's
Absolutely.
scheduling, that's, like, so many different skills. And I have a friend that's a hairstylist, and even her letting people know, like, "Hey, yeah, I'm running this special, I'm doing these hairstyles," or whatever. That's marketing, that's sales,
Mhm.
that's so I love that so much because when you think of tech as just like a different industry to carry out a different type of task. Like, instead of thinking like I have to be a UX designer already, and it's like, no, you already do research just trying to figure out, working at a daycare, how to figure out, like, what do kids want to eat and at what time should they eat it, and then when should they go play, should it be before or after their nap, and, like, because I want to get these kids back to their parents in the best, happiest, cleanest state possible. Even putting all that together, it's like that still counts. So yeah, that's so important,
Absolutely.
so important.
Yeah. And I think in terms of going into a leadership role, I think there's always the sense that you have to like look and feel and be a certain way. And I like to break that down. I think I don't look like the kind of leader that people expect
Mm.
all the time. But what I care about is, again, like I said, like breaking down silos, improving communication, improving collaboration, and making sure that we're all just, people. And as we're people, we are happy and we're building things that we believe in and we're helping each other be better every day. And like those are the things that really help lift up a team at the end of the day.
Yes. So I have opened up the floor for questions. So if any questions come in, we'll put them up on the screen. But I already have a question, and it's, I know a lot of people that their path wasn't directly tech. There's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Have you ever faced that, and how do you get over it as someone that wasn't like, I just always knew tech was my life, like.
Yeah, no, my God, I feel imposter syndrome every day to this day. Um, and I think part of that is that I try to do is to dig into like, why am I feeling this way? Is it because I'm really impressed by my coworkers and how good they are? Like, and I'm not feeling like I'm as good as them? Well, let me redirect that and say, wow, how cool is it that I get to work with such accomplished and impressive people and that I can learn from them? Is it that I'm not feeling like I'm being supported by my manager? Like maybe that means something that I need to talk to my manager about, or maybe that I need to kind of explore what's a project that I can do that I can feel confident in. And so I like to try and reframe that imposter syndrome, um, and kind of find that like underlying reason of why you're feeling that way. And I think the other important thing to note is that, tech is great, but tech is not saving the world, like you're not saving lives. It's not that important. You belong there. You can be there. It's not like the Nobel Prize. It's that sometimes you can get to the point where you're just like blowing something up to be so big in your head, and then it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm just a small mouse. Like I don't deserve to be here. And the reality is, you do deserve to be there, and it's not as big as you feel it is. It really isn't. And you can learn and you can grow. Um, And so I think that can be helpful of a reframe as well.
Yes, and something I like to tell people too is that tech is always evolving. So, I mean, what you think you don't know today probably won't even be relevant anymore tomorrow. Like, I'm sure there's people that are like, well, I didn't learn HTML or something. And it's like, okay, well, it's barely used anymore anyway. Well, I can't say that. I'm sure HTML is still used a lot. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure there's probably older code frameworks that people thought will last forever. But because of the
Mhm.
evolution, now it's something else. And I'm sure people thought that whatever Adobe, before Figma, I'm sure whatever Adobe was doing, everyone was like, this is going to be the Adobe suite, that's it. And now it's like,
Really.
so I'm just
Yeah,
like,
it's helpful to be nimble, but remember everybody's being kept on their toes by this industry. It's not just you.
yes, yes. So I'm just like, I feel like it's like double dutch. Like at any time you can jump in and like catch a rhythm. Like it's okay because it's changing so much anyway. I even
Mhm.
told that to myself because I'm like, oh well, I didn't learn this thing, and it's by tomorrow there's going to be a new tool that's you know it's okay that you didn't know the thing then because now, especially with AI and everything's just always changing. So I'm like, and then plus, even people that are like experts, um, they were expert in a certain thing. And once again, because of the evolution, y'all could be on the same page, a year from now. You never know. So
Totally. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So okay. Well, before I get there, thank you so much for your time. I'm like, I think this was a great conversation, getting to pick your brain and see all the different areas that your role covers. And that it's not just design, it is collaboration, it is working with other teams, it's critiques that are great. It's a lot of different things that you would expect or that you wouldn't expect. So I guess before we go, like, where can people find you? How can people connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I used to be on Twitter, but I'm not anymore. But I am on Blue Sky as well. I don't use it very often, but trying.
Okay.
You can find me there. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, yes, audience, please connect with Raquel on LinkedIn, follow her journey. When this video goes up live on our YouTube page, rewatch, watch, share it with your friends. And yeah, thank you, Raquel. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time here. It was awesome to be able to talk to this community.
Awesome. All right. So let me get to some announcements before I let y'all continue on with your work days. If you want to share your story with us, scan the QR code and submit the form. Um, we would love to hear from a bunch of different people, whether you have a traditional path in tech or an untraditional path in tech. Please, like, we would love to share what you have to say. Our upcoming events for this week, we have our community open house on Wednesday at our office from 11 to 2. Come check out our team, talk with us, see what we have going on, see the behind the scenes of our operations. We also have 2 digital literacy workshops. All of this is for Digital Inclusion Week this week. Those workshops will be Wednesday evening from 5 to 8 and Thursday from 11 to 2, I want to say. And they will both be in the same building as the community open house, 6633 East 290 Highway. You can find this on our website as well at www.joinutm.org/events. We also want your feedback. So let us know how we can better help you along your tech journey, what you would like to hear, what you would like to see more of. Donate. Your contributions help support our mission to advance a variety of tech communities throughout Austin and throughout the world. So donate, support the work we're doing. And last but not least, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, all the places, YouTube, Twitter at Join UTM, and visit our website at www.joinutm.org. And I think that's all I have for y'all. Thank y'all for joining us this afternoon. Have a great day. Bye.